their score as the next second. And they like that. They never complained about that. They have complained about instructors who have taken 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month to get an assignment back. Sometimes they don't get an assignment back in a semester. I took my classes from 80 to 84. That happened to me too. I didn't complain about it then, but they complain about it now. When you look at the pervasiveness of text messaging, right, they're conditioned to that immediate feedback. And that I wonder if perhaps the research that you have done has taken into account some of the systemic variables, such as how quickly instructors get feedback back to the students, and perhaps on a larger scale or a broader scale is what we refer to in the computer industry. The one thing impeding progress has always been the installed user base. And I'm wondering if perhaps the installed user base at the institutions that we have is really holding these kids back, causing them to behave in the ways that you're noticing.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, and I think to some extent that may be true at BCIT. We have a fairly traditional IT infrastructure, and there is resistance to using tools that are not supported institutionally, that aren't enterprise-wide. So that clearly would seem to have some impact. But going back to your question about instant feedback, and I think I agree. I mean, but I think that's not a generational issue. That's a social issue. I don't like it when I email a company with a complaint and they say, "I'll get back to you in 10 working days, 10 business days." That's ridiculous. I want an answer today. So I think that we've all been affected by the speed with which we can now get responses, and when people don't respond that way, it bothers us.
Good morning. I want to talk about Rory's electrician. I think one of our assumptions is that I would learn how to become an electrician in a different way than Rory and a different way than you and so on. And whether or not we would call those preferences or learning styles. And I'm just wondering if your search of the literature found anything that attempted to match Gardner's learning styles theory, for example, to different kinds of digital media. In other words, do I have a preference for a particular kind of media because of the kind of learner I am, for example?
No. Sorry. That was easy. I like questions like that. Yeah, but I won't go any further.
This isn't really a question so much as a comment. I've noticed, and I think I'll write a book about it on generational differences. I've noticed a distinct propensity of the older generation to get up and speak into the microphone and use this technology.
I wanted to ask, in your study, to what extent were the capabilities of the students in terms of technology a function of the instructor's ability to use the technology?
Can you just clarify that about? I think I know what you're getting at. But
yeah, I just want to know, your study, to what extent is it a reflection not so much of the students, but as a reflection of the ability of the instructor to use the proper technology in the appropriate way?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that might have had an impact on the results of this study. We didn't look at that specifically, but that's the kind of research that we need to be doing. We know many of our instructors are not that proficient with some of the newer technologies, so if they're not using them, chances are their students are not going to be using them, and that's going to have an impact. But we were getting at, we weren't really trying to address that in our study. We were trying to look at what are the communication preferences of the students, and how do they prefer to communicate with their peers and with the instructors.
For one one thing. I just had to come to the mic to prove the generational point. I was also wondering if there's, I think you're onto something with saying it's a social issue, but maybe our education system's been off for a very long time, and now just in the information age, everyone's more aware of how off it's been.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate comment. I mean, all of the things that Tapscott and others say about how our education system needs to change, we've all heard that for years. And I think to some extent we've responded to them. We probably haven't responded fast enough. But yeah, I think it probably, the technology makes, and the affordances of the technology make those differences and the shortcomings much more apparent. But again, we need to make, if we're going to make the changes, we need to make them based on evidence and based on the specifics of our audience and not on generalized